3 weeks later, the auditorium at the Galactic Federation Academy was packed with cadets and instructors. At the front, Selthra, Morto, and Losk stood on stage, their postures notably straighter than before their Earth visit. Zelthra's crystalline body showed thin repair lines where cracks had been sealed, now worn almost as badges of honor. Dean Fela raised her 4 arms for silence. Today we hear from the first cadets to complete training on Earth. Their experience will provide valuable insight into this newest Federation member world. Losk stepped forward first. Her spotted face was serious as she activated the holographic display. Images of Earth's mountains, forests, and storms appeared above the audience. "We went to Earth believing the stories were exaggerated," she began. "We were wrong. Earth is exactly as dangerous as our textbooks claim, perhaps more so." Morto joined her, his amphibious skin now showing a tougher texture than before. "Earth's gravity is crushing. Its atmosphere contains corrosive oxygen. Its temperature varies wildly. Weather can change from calm to deadly in minutes. Predators roam freely." A murmur ran through the audience. At the back of the room, Professor Kistvak's mandibles clicked in approval. Zelthra moved to center stage. But the most remarkable thing about Earth is not the planet itself. It's the humans. The display changed to show Lieutenant Miller and Sergeant Green digging through mud in the storm, and Dr. Powell working to repair Zelthra's damaged form. "When I was caught in a landslide, humans went back into conditions that would kill most species. They did this without hesitation, risking their lives for an alien they barely knew. They drink poison for pleasure," Morto added, showing an image of humans enjoying coffee. "They deliberately eat plants that cause pain. They consider this normal. Their medical technology is unlike anything in the Federation." Losk continued, "Not because it's more advanced, but because it had to evolve to treat injuries that would be fatal to any other species. Humans don't just survive on their Deathworld. They've adapted to thrive there." The audience was silent now, captivated by the presentation. In the front row, a human cadet named Greg Henderson sat watching with a small smile. "We asked Cadet Henderson what he thought of Earth's conditions," Selthra said, gesturing to Greg. "He told us he finds most Federation worlds too easy and boring." This generated shocked whispers among the alien cadets. Admiral Zorn, a senior Federation official with scales and a reptilian snout, stood up. "Based on your experience, do you believe Earth's classification as a Class 12 Deathworld is accurate?" The 3 alien cadets exchanged glances before Zelthra answered, "No, Admiral. I believe it may be understated." More murmurs filled the room. "Humans evolved in conditions that should have prevented intelligent life from developing," Morto explained. "Instead, these conditions created a species with redundant organs, rapid healing, incredible strength relative to size, and psychological resilience that borders on insanity by our standards." Losk concluded their presentation. "Humans don't see their world as dangerous. They see it as home. What terrifies us merely inconveniences them. When real danger appears, they don't panic. They solve problems with a calm efficiency that's almost frightening." The hall was quiet as the implications sank in. Then Admiral Zorn spoke again. "And what does this mean for the Federation's relationship with Earth?" Zelthra's crystalline form caught the light as he turned to address the room. "It means we should be grateful humans want peace. They evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every day. And they conquered it. What could stop such a species if they decided to conquer the stars?" Dean Fela stepped forward. "Thank you for your insights. One final question. Knowing what you know now, would you return to Earth?" Morto shuddered visibly. "Never. I value my life too much." Losk hesitated. "Perhaps, but only with extensive preparation and human guides." All eyes turned to Selthra, who had survived the worst Earth could throw at him. His answer surprised everyone. "Yes, without hesitation. Because while Earth is the most dangerous planet I've ever visited, humans are the most remarkable allies I've ever encountered." They call their world Earth. We call it a death world. But after seeing how they live there, I think a more accurate term might be crucible. In the back of the room, Lieutenant Jack Miller sipped his coffee and smiled. The aliens were finally beginning to understand. Through the shelter window, Morto and Losk watched as Lieutenant Miller and Sergeant Green battled the elements. Rain pounded sideways, driven by fierce winds. Mud flowed down the hillside in thick rivers. Yet the humans pressed forward, their flashlights small beacons in the darkness. "They're insane," Morto whispered. "No rational species would go out in that." Frank continued working the radio. "John, we need that helicopter as soon as there's a break in the storm." A crackled voice responded through static. "Understood. I'm prepped and ready." Amy's monitoring the weather patterns. Dr. Powell organized for medical equipment. Vitrians are resilient. Their crystalline structure can withstand pressures that would crush most species, but even they have limits. Nicole studied her geological instruments with concern. The ground is still unstable. There could be secondary slides. Should we warn them? Losk asked, her spotted face pale with worry. "They know," Peter said simply. "They've been trained for this." Outside, Miller and Green had reached the edge of the landslide area. Using specialized equipment, they began scanning for Selthra's unique crystalline signature. "Got something," Green called, pointing to an area where mud and broken trees had piled against a boulder. They dug frantically, their powerful human muscles straining against Earth's gravity as if it were nothing. Rain pelted their backs, mud sucked at their boots, but they continued without pause. A glint of crystal appeared in the muck. Miller cleared more debris away, revealing Selthra's form, cracked in several places but largely intact. "He's alive," Miller shouted through his communicator. "Damaged but alive." In the shelter, Morto and Losk hugged each other in relief, an unusual display of emotion for their species. How can they even function in these conditions? Losk wondered aloud. "They evolved here," Peter reminded her. "This is normal for them." Miller and Green carefully extracted Selthra from the mud and secured him to a stretcher. As they began the difficult journey back, the ground beneath them shifted ominously. "Move," Green shouted, pushing Miller and the stretcher forward as another section of hillside collapsed behind them. When they finally reached the shelter, they were covered in mud from head to toe, breathing hard but triumphant. Dr. Powell immediately went to work on Selthra, using specialized tools to repair his crystalline structure. "Will he survive?" Morto asked anxiously. "His core is intact," Dr. Powell said. "That's the most important part. The rest can be repaired." The radio crackled. "Weather's clearing in the east," came John's voice. "I can be at your location in 10 minutes. Land at the marker point," Frank instructed. "We'll bring the patient to you." Soon they heard the rhythmic thumping of helicopter blades. Outside, the rain had lessened slightly, and through breaks in the clouds, stars were visible in the night sky. "We need to move now," Dr. Powell said. "His condition is stabilizing, but he needs the full medical facility." Together, the humans carried Selthra's stretcher through mud and rain to a small clearing where a helicopter waited, its rotors whipping the air. A man with a weathered face and steady hands sat at the controls. "This is John Russell," Frank introduced. "Best pilot in the Rockies." "Can you fly in this?" Losk asked incredulously, looking at the still stormy sky. John grinned. "Ma'am, I could fly this bird through a keyhole if I had to." As they loaded Selthra into the helicopter, Dr. Powell and Lieutenant Miller climbed aboard as well. "We'll meet you back at base," Sergeant Green told Morto and Losk. "The rest of us will hike out once the weather improves." "You're not coming in the flying machine?" Morto asked. "Not enough room if we prioritize medical equipment," Green explained. "Besides, it's only a 3-hour hike." 3 hours. In this, Losk gestured to the stormy landscape. Green shrugged. "Just a little rain and mud. We've handled worse." As the helicopter lifted off, disappearing into the clouds with their injured friend, Morto and Losk exchanged looks of dawning comprehension. They weren't exaggerating about Earth, were they? Morto said quietly. No, Losk replied. If anything, they understated it. And they live here. They thrive here. Frank handed them each a cup of hot liquid. Drink this. It'll help you stay warm until we move out. What is it? Morto asked suspiciously. Just tea, Frank said, though some might call it another one of our pleasant poisons. The mountain lion's golden eyes remained fixed on the group, its tail swishing slowly back and forth. The alien cadets stood frozen in terror, while the humans moved with careful precision. Back away slowly, Frank whispered. No sudden movements. Peter carefully reached into his pack and pulled out a small canister. I have bear spray. Should work on a cougar too. Sergeant Green had her hand on her weapon, but hadn't drawn it. Let's try not to harm the wildlife if possible. The mountain lion took a step forward, its powerful muscles tensing beneath its fur. A low growl rumbled from its throat. Make yourself big, Frank instructed the group. Raise your arms and make noise. The humans immediately lifted their arms and began shouting. The aliens, after a moment of confusion, followed their example. Zelther's crystalline body reflected the dim light, creating an unusual light display that seemed to confuse the predator. After what felt like an eternity to the aliens, the mountain lion turned and disappeared deeper into the cave system. Is it gone? Morto asked, his voice quavering. Probably just retreated further in, Frank said. We should find different shelter. As they cautiously exited the overhang, the storm had intensified. Rain poured down in sheets, and a strong wind whipped through the trees. The trail will be dangerous now, Nickel warned. Flash floods are possible in this terrain. Flash floods? Losk asked. Peter pointed to a narrow ravine below them. Rain collects in the mountains and rushes down, creating sudden powerful floods. They can appear in seconds, even when it's not raining in that specific area. Lieutenant Miller checked his device. The emergency shelter is about half a kilometer east. We should head there. The group began moving through the forest, fighting against wind and rain. The alien cadets struggled with each step, their environmental suits working overtime to maintain safe conditions. Stay together, Frank called over the howling wind. The visibility is dropping. Through the curtain of rain, they spotted a small wooden structure tucked between large boulders. As they approached, a loud crack echoed through the forest, followed by a rumbling sound that grew rapidly louder. Landslide, Nickel shouted, pointing to the slope above them. Trees, rocks, and mud began sliding down the mountainside toward them. The humans reacted instantly, sprinting toward the shelter. The aliens tried to follow but moved painfully slowly in the high gravity. Run, Lieutenant Miller shouted, turning back to help Losk. Sergeant Green grabbed Morto's arm, half-dragging the Geltarian toward safety. Peter reached for Xelthra, but the Vitrian had wandered off the path, fascinated by the geological event despite the danger. Xelthra, Losk screamed. Come back. But it was too late. A wall of mud and debris slammed into the area where Xelthra stood. His crystalline form disappeared beneath the onslaught. No, Morto cried, trying to move toward his friend. We can't help him if we're dead too, Sergeant Green said firmly, pulling Morto toward the shelter. Once inside, the humans immediately organized a rescue. Frank radioed the base, while Lieutenant Miller gathered emergency equipment. I'm going back out there, Miller said, pulling on a raincoat. I'm coming too, Sergeant Green stated, checking her gear. But the landslide, Morto began. The rain is still falling. It's too dangerous. That's why we have to go now, Miller replied. Every minute counts. You'd risk your lives? Losk asked, amazed. For a Vitrian you barely know. That's what we do, Green said simply, as if it explained everything. Nickel monitored a portable weather device. The storm's getting worse. The conditions out there are deteriorating rapidly. More reason to hurry, Miller said, zipping up his coat. Dr. Grace Powell, the field medic who had been quietly preparing medical supplies, spoke up. His crystalline structure might have protected him from crushing injuries, but even Vitrians need to breathe. We have less than 10 minutes before oxygen deprivation becomes critical. Miller nodded grimly. Let's move. As the humans rushed back into the storm to save their alien comrade, Morto and Losk watched in stunned silence. They're going to die, Morto whispered. Maybe, Frank said, operating the radio. But they won't leave anyone behind, not even on a Deathworld. The morning sun beat down on the small group as they gathered at the trailhead. Zelthra, Morto, and Losk stood together, each wearing their modified environmental suits under Earth hiking clothes. Despite the gravity compensators in their boots, they still moved with obvious effort. Today's expedition is what we call a day hike, basic wilderness training, explained Frank Wilson, a weathered park ranger with sun-darkened skin and calm eyes. We'll follow this trail up about 2,000 feet in elevation, observe some local wildlife, and return before sunset. 2,000 feet, Morto whispered to Losk. In this gravity. Lieutenant Miller patted Morto's shoulder reassuringly. The trail is designed for beginners. Human children do this hike. This did not seem to comfort the Geltarian, whose amphibious skin had taken on a sickly pale color. 2 more humans joined the group. This is Nicole Edwards, our geologist. Frank introduced a woman with curly brown hair pulled into a ponytail, and Peter Harris, wilderness survival expert. Peter, a lean man with a quiet demeanor, nodded to the aliens. I'll be teaching you basic Earth survival skills. Fire making, shelter construction, water purification. Fire making. Zelthra's crystalline body trembled slightly, deliberately creating fire. Essential skill on Earth, Peter said matter-of-factly. Fire keeps you warm, cooks food, purifies water, and scares away predators. Predators. Losk's spotted face paled. Nothing to worry about, Nicole assured them. The large predators mostly avoid humans. Mostly. Morto squeaked. Frank adjusted his backpack. Let's move out, stay on the trail, and drink water regularly. Earth's atmosphere can dehydrate you quickly. The hike began on a gentle slope through pine forest. The aliens moved slowly, each step requiring conscious effort against Earth's pull. What the humans called a moderate pace left the cadets breathing hard after just 20 minutes. Are you well? Lieutenant Miller asked Losk, who had fallen behind. The air, she gasped. It's so thin. We're at 7,000 feet elevation, Nicole explained. The oxygen content is lower here than at sea level. You mean it gets easier elsewhere on Earth? Zelthra asked hopefully. Nicole smiled. In some ways. But lower elevations are often hotter and have more insects. As if summoned by her words, a small flying insect landed on Morto's arm. He stared at it in horror as it pierced his skin and began to feed. Blood-drinking parasite. He shrieked, frantically swatting at it. Peter calmly brushed the mosquito away. Just a mosquito. Annoying, but harmless unless you're allergic. You have parasites that drink blood, and you consider this normal? Losk asked incredulously. Wait until you see the ticks, Frank said with a chuckle. An hour later, dark clouds began rolling over the mountains. The temperature dropped rapidly, and wind whipped through the trees. Weather's changing, Frank observed. We should find shelter. That wasn't in the forecast, Lieutenant Miller said with a frown. Frank shrugged. Mountain weather. Changes by the minute. The first raindrops began to fall as they hurried toward a rocky overhang. The rain quickly became a downpour, with lightning flashing across the sky. Is this normal? Zelthra shouted over the thunder. Afternoon thunderstorm, Peter replied calmly. Happens almost daily in summer. As they huddled under the overhang, Morto's environmental suit began beeping warnings about temperature fluctuations. The rain had dropped the temperature by 15 degrees in minutes. How long will this last? Loss gasped, her voice trembling like her body. Could be minutes, could be hours, Nicole said. But we should be safe here. A loud crack split the air as lightning struck a nearby tree, sending splinters flying. The aliens ducked in terror while the humans merely glanced in that direction. Maybe we should move deeper under the rocks, Frank suggested casually, as if a tree hadn't just exploded nearby. As they moved further under the overhang, Peter froze, raising his hand for silence. "We're not alone," he whispered. In the shadows of the cave-like formation, two reflective eyes stared back at them. A low growl emanated from the darkness. "Mountain lion," Frank said quietly. "Nobody makes sudden movements." The alien cadets stood paralyzed with fear as a large feline predator emerged from the shadows, its muscles rippling under tawny fur, teeth gleaming as it growled again. "What do we do?" Morto whispered, trembling. "Nothing sudden," Sergeant Green said, slowly reaching for her sidearm. "This is all part of the Earth experience." The training facility's main building was a sturdy structure of wood and stone. Inside, the temperature was carefully controlled for the aliens' comfort. Zelthra, Morto, and Losk collapsed into specially designed chairs, exhausted from the short walk from the shuttle. "That was only 50 meters, Zelthra said, his crystalline form drooping slightly. "How do humans move in this gravity?" "You'll adjust somewhat," Lieutenant Miller assured them, "though it takes time." A tall, broad-shouldered man in a military uniform entered the room. His face was stern, with a scar running along his jawline. The three alien cadets straightened as much as their tired bodies allowed. "Welcome to Earth Training Base Alpha. I'm Major Eric Stone," he said, his voice deep and commanding. "You are here to learn, not to be coddled. The Federation may treat you like fragile ornaments, but on my base, you'll be expected to keep up." Lieutenant Miller cleared his throat. "Sir, perhaps we should allow them time to acclimate to Earth conditions." Major Stone frowned. "They have 3 days to acclimate. Then training begins." He looked at each alien cadet in turn. "This isn't a vacation. This is a death world. Remember that." After the major left, a woman with a warm smile entered carrying a tray. "I thought you might be hungry after your trip. I'm Karen Lee, the base chef. I've prepared meals suitable for each of your biologies." The aliens accepted the food gratefully. Morto sniffed his meal of synthesized alga suspiciously. "It smells different." "I had to use Earth-based ingredients," Karen explained. "But it should be safe. The chemical composition is nearly identical to your homeworld food." As they ate, a young man with glasses entered, carrying equipment. "Hi there. I'm Ben Nelson, tech specialist. I need to calibrate your environment suits for long-term Earth operation." While Ben worked on their suits, adding reinforcements and adjusting settings, the cadets looked through the large windows at the landscape outside. The promised storm had arrived, rain lashing against the glass, while lightning flashed across the darkened sky. "Is it always this violent?" Losk asked, flinching as thunder boomed. "This," Lieutenant Miller laughed, "this is just a spring shower. Wait until you see a real thunderstorm." The next morning, the aliens woke to find the storm gone, replaced by brilliant sunshine that made the wet landscape glisten. Humans moved about outside, seemingly unaffected by the dramatic weather change. In the mess hall, the cadets watched in horror as the humans consumed their breakfast. "What is that brown liquid everyone is drinking?" Losk asked. "Coffee," Miller explained. "Remember the caffeine the professor mentioned? This is our most common delivery method." Sergeant Green joined them, carrying a mug of the steaming liquid. "Best part of waking up," she said, taking a long drink. "Couldn't function without it." "You willingly drink poison to function better?" Morto asked incredulously. "One person's poison is another's morning pick-me-up," Green replied with a shrug. A group of off-duty personnel at a nearby table erupted in laughter as one of them ate something red that made his face turn bright pink. What's happening to that human? Selthra asked, alarmed by the color change. Hot sauce competition, Miller explained. They're eating capsaicin for fun. It causes a burning sensation. They're hurting themselves for entertainment. Losk was aghast. Major Stone entered the mess hall, his presence immediately noticed by all. Cadets, report to the equipment room in 30 minutes. You'll be issued training gear. In the equipment room, Ben Nelson helped them into reinforced clothing designed to protect their alien physiologies while allowing them to function in Earth conditions. These boots have gravity compensators, Ben explained. They won't make Earth feel like your homeworlds, but they'll reduce strain by about 30%. Why don't the humans wear similar technology? Morto asked. We don't need it, Major Stone said from the doorway. We evolved here. Our bodies are built for these conditions. He stepped forward, picking up a heavy backpack with one hand. Today you'll begin with basic physical assessment. A light 5-kilometer hike through the foothills. 5 kilometers. Selthra repeated, remembering how exhausted they'd been after 50 meters the day before. Problem, Cadet? Stone asked, his voice challenging. Selthra straightened his crystalline form. No, sir. No problem. Good, the Major replied. Because tomorrow, the real training begins. The horizon emerged from jump space with a gentle shudder. In the observation deck, Selthra, Morto, and Losk pressed against the viewport, eager for their first glimpse of Earth. It's so blue, Losk said, her spotted face reflecting the light of the planet below. Morto's amphibious skin pulsed with nervous excitement. Look at those white swirls. Are those the storm systems Professor Kistvak mentioned? Just clouds, Lieutenant Miller said as he joined them. Normal weather patterns. Zelther's crystalline form sparkled as he turned. It doesn't look dangerous from here. Few things do from a distance, Miller replied with a knowing smile. Captain Lisa Reeves's voice came over the ship's communication system. All personnel prepare for orbital descent. Alien cadets report to Medical Bay for final checks. In the Medical Bay, Dr. Alan Frost, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and graying hair, checked readings on his tablet as the 3 cadets entered. Welcome, he said. I need to run some last tests before we enter Earth's atmosphere. Dr. Frost moved a scanner over each cadet. His expression grew more concerned with each reading. Is something wrong? Losk asked. Nothing unexpected, Dr. Frost replied. But you'll all need boosters for your environmental suits. Earth's gravity will be challenging for you. How challenging? Morto asked nervously. You'll feel about twice as heavy as normal, Dr. Frost explained. Movement will be difficult at first. Your muscles will tire quickly. Zelthra made a dismissive sound. My crystalline structure is stronger than it looks. Dr. Frost looked at him seriously. Perhaps, but Earth's gravity has broken stronger materials than Vitrian crystal. An hour later, the cadets were strapped into special seats in the shuttle's passenger compartment. Each wore an environmental suit modified for their species. Lieutenant Miller sat across from them, wearing only a standard Federation uniform. Aren't you going to wear a protective suit? Losk asked. Miller laughed. This is my home planet. I need protection on your worlds, not mine. The shuttle engines fired, and they began their descent toward Earth. As they hit the upper atmosphere, the shuttle began to shake, gentle at first, then with increasing violence. Is this normal? Morto asked, his voice quivering along with the shuttle. Completely, Miller said calmly. Just some light turbulence. The shuttle pitched suddenly to the left. Warning lights flashed. The alien cadets gripped their seats in terror. Light turbulence. Selthra shouted over the noise. The human pilot's voice came over the speaker, sounding relaxed. Hitting a bit of rough air. Folks, nothing to worry about. After what felt like an eternity to the alien cadets, the shuttle broke through the cloud layer. Below them stretched a vast landscape of towering mountains capped with white, dense green forests and winding rivers. Welcome to Colorado, Lieutenant Miller said as the shuttle stabilized. One of Earth's more moderate regions. Moderate? Losk whispered, still gripping her seat. The shuttle landed on a pad near a cluster of buildings nestled between mountain slopes. As the engines powered down, the door opened, allowing Earth's air to flow in. The Cadets' environmental suits immediately began to beep with warnings. Oxygen level, 21%, hazardous for Geltarian physiology, Morto's suit announced. Temperature variation exceeding safe parameters for Gytrian stability, Zelthra's suit warned. Atmospheric pressure exceeding comfortable levels for Trill adaptation, chirped Losk's suit. Lieutenant Miller watched their reactions with sympathy. Your suits will protect you. The base has adjusted living quarters for each of your needs. 2 weeks after Professor Kistvak's lecture, the Academy's main hall was filled with excited cadets. Dean Phyla, a tall, willowy being with silver skin that seemed to flow like liquid metal, stood at the front podium. The room quieted as she raised her 4 arms for silence. I have exciting news, Dean Phyla announced, her voice melodic yet authoritative. The Federation has approved a new exchange program. Top cadets will visit member worlds for their final training mission. Excited whispers filled the hall. Off-world assignments were rare and highly prized among final-year cadets. Each world has different requirements and will accept different numbers of cadets, the dean continued. The assignments will be posted later today, and you may submit your preferences by tomorrow. As the meeting ended, Zelthra, Morto, and Losk stayed in their seats while others rushed out. I hope for assignment to Centauri Prime, Losk said, her spotted skin flushing with excitement. Their biolabs are the best in the quadrant. Morto nodded. I'd prefer Aqualis. The underwater cities would feel like home. Anywhere but boring diplomatic posts, Zelthra said, his crystalline body glinting in the light. I want adventure before graduation. Lieutenant Jack Miller walked over to their group, smiling. You might get more adventure than you expect, he said mysteriously. Later that day, the assignment list appeared on the Academy's main screen. Cadets gathered around, pointing and talking excitedly. Zelthra pushed his way to the front, then froze. This can't be right, he said. Morto squeezed through the crowd to join him. What is it? Zelthra pointed at the screen. Earth has requested cadets. They've never joined the exchange program before. Losk appeared beside them, eyes wide. Earth? The Deathworld. The screen showed that Earth was accepting 3 cadets for a special wilderness training exercise. Unlike other postings with dozens of applicants already listed, Earth's slot remained empty. No one will volunteer for that, Morto said, his amphibious skin paling slightly. Zelthra was quiet for a moment, then straightened his crystalline form. I will. What? Losk and Morto said together. Think about it, Zelthra said. If even half of what Professor Kistvak said is true, it would be the most challenging assignment possible. And if, as I suspect, those stories are exaggerated, we'll have an easy assignment while everyone else struggles with difficult posts. Losk looked uncertain. But what if the stories are true? Then we'll be the first Academy cadets to experience a Class 12 Deathworld and live to tell about it, Zelthra replied. Imagine how that would look on our service records. The next day, Captain Lisa Reeves reviewed the volunteer list in her office aboard the training vessel Horizon. The human woman raised an eyebrow as she saw 3 names listed for Earth assignment. Interesting, she said to Commander Ryan Webb, who stood nearby. We actually have volunteers. Commander Webb leaned over to look at the screen. A Vitrian, a Geltarian, and a Trill. Diverse group. Are the accommodations ready? Captain Reeves asked. Dr. Frost has adjusted the ship's environmental controls for their quarters, Webb answered. But he's concerned about the planet-side stay. Earth's conditions are genuinely dangerous for these species. Captain Reeves nodded. Make sure the emergency medical supplies are doubled. And brief Sergeant Green on the special protocols. Do you think they know what they're getting into? Webb asked. Not a chance, Reeves said with a slight smile. But that's part of the experience. 3 days later, Selthra, Morto, and Losk stood in the Academy's departure bay with their bags. Professor Kistvak approached them, mandibles clicking with concern. "I understand you volunteered for Earth assignment," he said. "We did," Zelthra replied confidently. "We're looking forward to seeing how exaggerated those Deathworld stories really are." The professor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "I assure you, Cadet, nothing in my lecture was exaggerated. If anything, I understated Earth's dangers for clarity." Lieutenant Miller joined them, carrying his own bag. "Ready for adventure, cadets?" "You're coming too?" Losk asked. Miller nodded. "Someone needs to help ease your transition. Earth can be overwhelming at first." As they boarded the shuttle that would take them to the horizon, Mordo whispered to his friends, "I'm starting to think this might have been a mistake." Zelthra laughed, the sound like tinkling crystal. "Relax. How bad could it really be?" The lecture hall of the Galactic Federation Academy buzzed with whispers and stifled laughter. Professor Kistvak, a tall insectoid with iridescent blue exoskeleton, tapped his claw against the holographic display to quiet the class of final-year cadets. "Today, we discuss Class 12 planets, commonly known as Deathworlds," Professor Kistvak said, his mandibles clicking with each syllable. "These are environments so extreme that sentient life should not, by all scientific understanding, evolve there." Cadet Selthra, whose crystalline body refracted the light into small rainbows on nearby desks, leaned toward his friend Morto. "Another lecture about mythical monsters," he whispered. "As if any species could evolve in such ridiculous conditions." Morto's amphibious skin glistened with protective mucus as he shifted uncomfortably. Unlike his friend, he wasn't so quick to dismiss the professor's teachings. "The universe is vast, Tel. Who knows what's possible?" "Silence, please," Professor Kistvak said, focusing all 4 eyes on Selthra. "Perhaps Cadet Selthra wishes to share his insights with the class." The crystalline cadet straightened up. "I simply find it hard to believe, Professor. These Deathworlders sound like children's tales meant to frighten young hatchlings." "Indeed." The professor's mandibles clicked in what the cadets recognized as amusement. "Today we focus on perhaps the most notorious example. Terra, 3rd planet of the Sol system, known to its natives as Earth." The holographic display changed to show a blue-green world with white swirling clouds. Several cadets made sounds of appreciation at its beauty. "Do not be fooled by its appearance," Professor Kistvak warned. "Earth's conditions are so extreme that most species in this room would die within days, perhaps hours, of setting foot on its surface." Cadet Losk, a spotted humanoid with a ridge running down the center of her face, raised a webbed hand. "What makes it so dangerous, Professor?" "An excellent question. Earth has crushing gravity at 9.8 meters per second squared, nearly twice the galactic average. Its atmospheric pressure would feel like being deep underwater to many species. Temperature variations can swing 40 degrees in a single day cycle, and the oxygen content is so high that fires start easily and spread quickly." Zelthra snorted, a sound made by vibrating his crystalline structure. "That's nothing. My homeworld has acid rains." "Ah, but Earth has that too," the professor said, "along with tornadoes, hurricanes, tsunamis, earthquakes, and active volcanoes, often occurring simultaneously." From the back of the room, Lieutenant Jack Miller watched with quiet amusement. As the only human instructor at the academy, he'd heard these lectures before. He enjoyed watching the cadets' reactions, knowing they believed only half of what they heard. "The truly remarkable thing," Professor Kistvak continued, "is not the planet, but its dominant species, humans. They have evolved not despite these conditions, but because of them." The display showed an image of a human male running a marathon. Humans can sweat to regulate body temperature, allowing them to run until other predators collapse from exhaustion. They can break a limb and continue fighting. Their bodies heal from wounds that would be fatal to most species. They breathe the same oxygen that would be toxic to many sentient life forms. Cadet Morto looked concerned. Are they dangerous to other species? Not intentionally, Professor Kistvak said, but they often don't understand their own strength or resilience. Most curiously, they consume poisons for pleasure. This prompted outright laughter from the class. It's true, the professor insisted. They drink a neurotoxin called caffeine to stay alert. They consume ethanol to relax. Some even eat capsaicin, a defense chemical from plants that causes burning pain, for enjoyment. That's ridiculous. Selthra exclaimed. No species would deliberately poison itself. In the back, Lieutenant Miller sipped his coffee, enjoying the warmth and caffeine buzz while the class laughed at the apparent absurdity. Professor Kistvak waited for the laughter to subside. The Federation classified Earth as a Class 12 Deathworld for good reason. Remember this if you ever encounter humans. They evolved in hell and thought it was normal. As the lecture ended, Selthra, Morto, and Losk gathered their study materials. What nonsense, Selthra said. No wonder humans aren't taken seriously in the Federation. Losk looked thoughtful. I don't know. If even half of that is true, they must be remarkably adaptable. As they passed Lieutenant Miller, the human smiled and raised his coffee cup in a small salute, his eyes twinkling with a secret the alien cadets didn't yet understand.